Hey, PU people, and welcome to Untier Talk, where we're not actually going to talk about the big suspect news that came out yesterday. We've got a whole nother week for that, but today it's time to talk about PUPL and how that wrapped up. And joining us to give their thoughts is the one, the only champion of PUPL, well, along with his team, the only managing champion of PUPL currently, the inestimable Robert Alphonse.
Hi.
and Hajad's here too.
Yo, as always.
As always, yes. That was really enthusiastic. You guys are nailing it.
Thanks.
All right, so
We're classy.
yeah, so I think we should really just stick with this. We've already talked. We talked about potential for suspect last episode. People kind of know where we stand on this. I'm not convinced we should ban Kingler, but it's a close run thing, and I don't think there's much worth talking about until we get like deeper into the suspect and see more opinions. So
I think it'll be fun to ban it because it'll free up some slots. Although I'm also fine with just running Tangle on every team. I like Tangle at the moment.
Tangle is adorable.
Yeah, it's really cute, and it also works really well on my team. So I'm okay with Kingler, I guess, but I'm also okay with it leaving. In general, at the moment, it's a little stiff, so a ban would definitely be appreciated, whether it be Kingler or Pyro or both.
Yeah,
I don't really care. I just want to see how to roll.
I think stiff team building is definitely fair, and kind of was honestly my impression of PUPL in a lot of ways. The final week. So the Marowaks did not win as we expected. They did not carry over any momentum like we were worried about. They kind of just fizzled out very slowly and sadly in a mildly underwhelming series. As a spectator, that was my impression. I wish I could be more enthused, but they just lost. There's not much crazy to say about it. They kind of just lost. Like, Hijad, did you get any better of an impression of the series than I did?
Well, yeah, I was part of the Marowaks building group. You know, what I mean, I was really involved with the Marowaks team
Okay.
building when it came towards the finals. So I have first-hand experience, and what it felt like was a lot of the builders coming together to try and offer offer teams, offer advice for each other. But I think at the end of the day, what happened is that even though the builds themselves were okay, the people using the builds weren't comfortable with them. I can build a team for me, and I'd know I'd be comfortable with it. But when you're building a team for somebody else, it's you don't understand their way of thinking when it comes down to Pokemon. So I feel like what happened more so than a lack of good teams was a fundamental player on a player basis that they were just not as committed. I felt I'm sure Robert Alphonse's team did much more test games with their teams than our team or the Marowaks team ended up doing. I think we had maybe 2 or 3 test games, for a couple of the finals teams, and I don't think that's something that you need to be doing when you go into a finals match.
Yeah, it's an interesting analysis because I think it kind of showed as a spectator, but I don't know. As the manager, you also probably have a much better idea of what was going on. Yeah, Robert.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, I basically built for myself and for Snaga this week, and I basically wanted to make really sure that they were good teams. So what I did was I just hit Tasker up for some test games, and that really helped. No, they were I was really happy with my builds this week. Snaga unfortunately couldn't win, but that was not exactly his fault. More so the RNGs. But
I'm honestly
yeah,
still not
well,
convinced on that game, but we'll get to that.
Yeah. No, like I built for myself and Snaga, and then Lord of Stee built for himself and Lax, I think. And honestly, like neither Snaga nor Lax really played with those teams beforehand, but definitely like somebody like Lax knows how to use a team without needing much experience with it. I feel like that's definitely one of Lax's stronger points. Like, he's definitely like a solid player who can, like just go out there, grab a team, and do well with it. Whereas, yeah, like I feel like on Hans and while he had like a good team, there were definitely probably more people who would like some more experience, like like Pepe and maybe King Lord as well.
Mm-hmm. That's fair. I mean, to me, the Marowaks, it might be better to analyze them on an individual game by game level instead of continuing to make very like broad statements.
Oh, sure.
So I guess we should go chronologically as the week progressed.
Mm-hmm.
So that would make the first game Dundee's versus Snaga. And yeah, I can definitely see what you mean about the Marowaks maybe not like having used their teams beforehand. The Dundee's team didn't really seem very Dundee's at all. It was like Frostlass, Type Null, Blossom, Spikes. He's normally like one of the better players to come around PU, but there wasn't really a lot of doubling or crazy plays or anything. And at the end, he ended up getting a very fortunate cursed body to stop the mono attacking Blossom and just make it struggle after taunt. But even without that, like
considered on that team to like put like Sludge Bomb over. I think
I think Moonblast is the best option.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're right. No, like I was definitely like considering like Moonblast or like Sludge Bomb, especially because like that team, if anything, was a little weak to like Lilligant. That was like its one flaw. So I was like, I could put that, but then I ended up just like, basically I just pasted like the team with like Safeguard Blossom, and I was like, Snaga, you can like change if you want, but he didn't.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like the cursed body shit was a little unfortunate.
See, I don't know that it was that bad though, because I mean, either way, it's still gonna be a Blossom war. Like,
that's well,
there's no guarantee that Snaga won that at all. Blossom versus Blossom. I'm actually not really sure how that Ditto plays out. I've never seen it, but they would be pretty much on even footing there, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, because from my perspective, when I was watching the game, I was thinking, okay, the curse body happened. I actually thought that the curse body was worse for Dundee's at the time, because what would end up happening was you'd force the Blossom out, or the Blossom would die, so that Dundee's Blossom couldn't set up on it, and that wasn't a guaranteed fact. And I know for a fact Dundee's Blossom was, I don't know if you revealed it, but it definitely was Moonblast. So if it did come down to a Blossom war, Dundee's would have won it 100%. There's no way a Giga Drain Blossom or a Mono Giga Drain Blossom beats Moonblast Blossom 1v1.
No, you're right.
Oh, it was Moonblast. Okay, then yeah, I don't really think it mattered then. But the game itself was still pretty interesting. We saw bulky Frostlass. I'm wrong, by the way, having never seen that.
Honestly, the biggest, like more so than like the whole like curse body thing, like the biggest turn was the first turn, because Dundee's went for knock, probably expecting a hard Regirock, predicting like the Stone Edge, and Snaga just stayed in and tried to wisp the boot ups, but he fucking missed.
That was also huge.
If he had not missed, he would have been able to get his hazards up pretty confidently, and that would have really torn into Dundee's team in general, because his hazard removal was a Scarf Kaboot Ops. As long as you keep your Frostless alive, you can always at least check the Rapid Spin once. And yeah, basically, like, that would have made like things a lot harder for Dundee's. But because of that miss, Snaga was, and I think like there was another like early game like crit or something else going on that really pissed him off, where Snaga was just like, okay, I don't even where he was just like, I'm just gonna click buttons. So like he drain punished on a Mesprit like 2 or 3 times in a row, and Eventually, he got to the realization that maybe he could win after all, but then like
It was a little
eventually,
late.
and yeah,
And yeah,
it
honestly,
was
at
a
the
really
time,
good
I
game.
really did question the knock as well because Stone Edge is better versus Regirock. It's better versus Blossom, which honestly seemed like the safer switch in because you can tank two edges and strength sap pretty safely. And knock just isn't good
Yeah.
versus the potential Cobra Frostlass. Like I don't really get Snaga staying in at all. I guess it might have been
Um.
unfamiliarity with the Scarf Kabu, but that didn't make like a lot of sense to me. Especially when like you really want your Frostlass because his main stall breaker is Alolan Dougie, and I do like Alolan Dougie on spikes. I think it's really, really hard to deal with. But Dundee's has a type null, so how much do you really expect Alolan Dougie to be breaking? Like type null plus Mesprit plus Blossom. He doesn't have a lot of breaking power. He needs the spikes, so risking Frostlass turn one, really questionable in my eyes.
Yeah, you're probably right. I don't actually recall like what his rationale was there. I guess he just felt like maybe the Stone Edge was too obvious of a play. Or maybe he temporarily forgot that Rudolph's usually runs Scarf. That could also be the case. I honestly don't know. But
Yeah, no. If I knew Snagger, like the way I think Snagger thought that it definitely wasn't a Scarf Caboose, or that
he either
okay, if it turned out to be Scarf, he could sub with Dugtrio, and get Toxicroak. I think that's what he was thinking.
Yeah, no, like don't quote me on this, but like oh by the way, it was a Scarf Dugtrio, but that's neither here nor there.
Oh shit.
Yeah. It's a really cool set, by the way. I love it. But no.
Huh.
Basically, it was like I feel like either he didn't expect a Scarf, or he was like Dundee's is gonna expect Sash Frostless or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
because I mean, like in most tiers, like Sash Frostless is actually a thing, and over here it's not so much. But he felt like maybe Dundee's would think so. That's sort of like the rationale that I would get from it, but I didn't actually question him too much about it. So I could be wrong there. Maybe he just clicked a button. I don't know. But in any case, it would have turned like that play did turn out well for him had he actually a hit, and would have like shifted the game like massively in his favor. But
yeah, honestly, the revelation of Scarf though kind of confuses me. The team definitely seems a little weak and very spikes reliant, but spikes reliant is definitely like not a bad thing versus the type of team Dundee's was using. So maybe was just like the call because it was weak versus spikes. So what are you gonna do? Still, I think we basically hit on the big points of that game. There just some kind of weird stuff happened overall, and there wasn't a lot of flashy play. But Dundee's ended up taking the game over Snaga. So Marowak started off like with what you'd expect. The first two games, Marowak's picked up a 2-0 lead, so that's not nothing.
Mm-hmm.
The next game, of course, being Miyoka versus Chris Loud, a game that kind of just broke my heart. Miyoka definitely outplayed Chris, but you could tell Chris had like a handle on the situation. He had a plan. He had like thought about how to beat Miyoka, and the way he lost was aside from the big signal beam turn 2, he lost two 50-50s in a row, and Miyoka didn't miss 2 focus blasts, which is like, ouch. That was sad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, that game was yeah.
It's not like a hacks thing. Obviously, like Miyoka definitely outplayed this game, especially with turn 2 clicking signal beam with Kadabra, expecting Chris Loud to switch out and try to preserve his Mischievous. Like that was definitely very big, but it was still like even after sacking the Cacturn turn 2, not having spikes versus Miyoka's team, which looked weirdly annoyed by spikes to me. I guess the mitigating factor is that nothing could really get spiked on. But yeah, losing that was definitely a big deal turn 2.
Yeah,
Mhm.
for sure. I'd say overall though, the first two games were games that I think if you're on the Marowak side or the Boku no Pica side, you look at both those two games and you think those games aren't really the swing games because yeah, sure they were swing games if Chris Loud or Snagger they managed to
If they
punch it.
won, but you wouldn't predict
Yeah.
them to win at all. They kind of just went how you
Yeah.
expected.
Oh yeah.
Exactly.
No, like I mean, no offense to like either Snag or Chris Loud because I do think they're really solid, but like those were not the games that I was like banking on winning. Like when we lost those two, I was not like, oh, the week is like at a definite disadvantage. Like like a bigger deal would have been like if Rodri played earlier and like would have lost the Mysterious M or something. Like that would have really like fucked me up because then I would be like, oh shit. But
Yeah,
of course,
I
he
mean,
did not lose because it's Rodri. But yeah.
spoilers. If you look at the first two games, I mean, if you're on the Boku no Pica side, you're thinking 100%. We never expected to win those two games anyway. It doesn't really matter at this point. You still have your better players coming up, and I feel like the lead kind of played into the heads of the Marowaks to an extent. Because if you think about it, you saw almost like a lax nature being brought about, and I feel like that the early lead kind of helped comprehend that. Whereas I felt like the week was closer from the beginning.
What's that lax nature?
Different games.
By the way.
Not even just that, but in retrospect, like the rest of the games the Marowaks played were not super impressive or anything, and the signs were kind of there and how like close those games that they should have won that we were expecting them to win were. How like the Dundee's team was a little shaky. The signs were there, but because they picked up that 2-0 lead, I definitely wasn't. I was like, okay, they've got their heads screwed on. This is pretty much what we expected. They're gonna do well, and that kind of made like the following upset even more surprising and shocking and probably just devastating as a team to see your team just like having the week slip away from them. Especially if you run into the next game. I think we can move on because none of us really play DPP. And the next game is one I'm sure there's quite a bit to talk about because I was incredibly shocked at what the Marowaks were doing there, which was the Robert Alphonse versus Pepe game.
Oh yeah.
You obviously played in that game, Robert. But before, I thought that game was just really poorly built and played by Pepe at some really significant levels. I don't know how you feel, though. Did you feel that like that was even a close game by any means?
I think my team was pretty good. I will say I was sort of like CM Oricorio week, so like I was sort of worried about his Oricorio waking up from the sleep powder that I did hit on him early on, which I feel he shouldn't have allowed, by the way. Like I feel like if he, like unless he was not CM, but I feel he was, considering he did not reveal like any sort of Z move user, so I feel like
I might be able to check. So give me a sec.
He said he might be able to check. Give him a sec.
Okay, but yeah, no, like, I feel like he definitely could have, like, presented Oricorio since, like, I did lack of flying resist. But, well, I mean, I had my own Oricorio, but obviously it's not a great switch-in on, like, a CM Oricorio or anything, considering I was Scarf.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, no, like, I felt Pepe's team was really kind of weird.
Yeah, typical
It
Pepe
had
stuff, isn't it?
it definitely had, like, some really, like, yeah, just weird stuff going on.
I mean, Pepe's teams are always weird, but like he didn't bring a solid fire resist. He didn't bring a solid normal resist. His team was like trying to be more offensively threatening, but
Yeah,
not necessarily. It wasn't necessarily all that strong. Like
yeah.
it's very weird to describe, and maybe we'd feel different if the game was played differently. But what ended up happening was Oricorio got sleep powdered extremely early, and then he ended up like using every double and bit of momentum to go back into Oricorio and wait for it to wake up. And at the point that it did, the game was already so far gone that like he just kind of got dropped.
Yeah. I mean, fundamentally, I think I'm looking at the team now. Like, it was a max speed, taunt, Carmine, Roost, Hurricane, Oricorio, Pom Pom with max HP. So it was sort of bulky, sort of not bulky, in the general sense. It was also flyzy. So 100%. Pepe misplayed by sacking his Oricorio. By sacking, I mean switching it into a sleep powder, risking that 100%. I feel like that was on him. I feel like Alphonse could have outplayed in the scenario where it did get a Carmine off. Like you could have reasonably seen Pyro get Fire Blast off and then Floatzel coming into Revenge with Ice Beam. Like that was a reasonable set.
Plus, there was U-turn Pom Pom to get momentum on it.
Yeah, exactly. Plus, I mean, keep in mind, both my Pyro and Floatzel had taunt in case he tried to, like, pull some Roost shit, so...
Yeah,
there were definitely ways to go about it.
Pom Pom didn't 6-0, but I felt like Pepe's shot at winning heavily depended on it, and him just letting it, switch it into a sleep powder from Tangela. I mean, maybe he was thinking, Tangela doesn't have room anymore to hit sleep powder, but I'd counter-argue, I'd say, like, of course it does now. Maybe in the old meta where there was a Pharisee that needed HP Fire and then you wanted knockoff and then you needed Giga Drain and then you needed Synthesis, then yeah, maybe Sleep Powder wasn't something that you'd expect. But now when you have so many move slots like open to Tangela, I don't know why he didn't expect like a Sleep Powder or HP Ice especially. Like, I was thinking maybe a HP Ice would come out, or especially since he's been using offensive Tangela more than once, and the team was looking like an offensive, Alphonse team was quite offensive, so maybe he didn't take into account the that scenario. Overall, I just...
To be fair, by the way, like, I never actually used quite offensive Tangela. I just, like, slapped Leaf Storm on defensive just because I felt like the damage output was worth it. No, this one was HP Fire and Leaf Storm, Synthesis, and then Sleep Powder. I always want like some sort of status move, so it was either gonna be Toxic or Sleep Powder. But since like I already had like my ways of dealing with Oricorio on opposing teams, like at least, no, Lilligant. I already have my way of dealing with Lilligant with like my Scarf Oricorio and stuff. So I was like, I can do Sleep Powder or Toxic here, and yeah. I don't know, like, I would definitely always expect, like, some sort of status move from Tangela. So that was a very unnecessary risk on his part, and that basically put him on a big setback because, yeah, like, Oricorio was his ticket to winning, to me. Like,
yeah, it's just other things that I wanted to add is just that I'd say Pepe's team just had fundamental flaws with it. I mean, if you just look at it, like, if you look at Pepe's sort of just fundamentally looking at his team, Scyther is 4 times weak to rocks, so you need to be damn sure that your Hazard's control is going to be able to like last the game. Otherwise, you're essentially invalidating, 2 or 3 Pokemon slots to a Pokemon that may or may not work. So there was fundamental issues that I had with Sylvadia Water being his only Hazard's control. I thought, maybe on the team it might have been default Pom as well. I don't know if you thought about that, Alphonse, at team preview.
I really didn't.
I wouldn't have expected it.
It meant that like his Oricorio was less threatening to me, but
Yeah, I guess fair enough. You're thinking about like worst case scenario. This turns out to be Carmine Taunt Pom Pom. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was like when I was looking at the team myself. I was thinking, yeah, he's got a few problems here, but Pepe's Pepe. I'm sure he'll like in the game he'll find a way, but the team just didn't work. That's just how it goes sometimes.
Yeah, like I said, maybe if the game went any better, we could be less skeptical. But it's very hard not to just view that as why was that team being used? Why was it being played the way it was? And we can do even we can go on for another 10-15 minutes about analyzing the teams and potential sets, but I really don't think it matters in the overall narrative, just because like that one simple sentence kind of sums up the whole game. So yeah, U-turn pom pom though, very interesting. We'll definitely get back to that when talking about sets. Um, the next game, speaking of teams, I just really don't like at all. We had Ryza versus Rob Jr. as the next game that happened. Definitely one of the games I think could have gone either way, just from the prediction without seeing teams or matchup or anything. Just Ryza being more experienced with PU, Rob Jr. being like being like a solid, proven tour player. Um, but Ryza's team lost to Zebstrika.
Yeah.
Like it was just a very weird kind of offensive balance-ish team that you just don't see in Oras anymore, because I think they're the kind of team I tried to make, because that's the kind of thing I preferred, but I just don't think they work. I don't think that what he used works at all, and I'm not even like that huge of a fan of Rob Jr.'s team either. For example, Sub Rotom absolutely just 6-0s demolishes, obliterates him, and it's not necessarily great versus Stall. But like, I just don't get what Ryza was using
No,
at all. I wish I
really
could be
don't
more
either.
positive
I
on that
mean,
one too.
it's been a while since I really played much Oras, but his team definitely looked kind of weird. Had a lot of flaws, definitely. Didn't really have much for Articuno other than Rotom Frost, which, like,
Not a good switch-in.
not reliable.
I mean, from my perspective, because I saw Rise's team, I didn't see Rise's team like in the prep stage, but when I was looking at the game, the replay of the game, I saw a matchup that was sort of like 50-50. I saw that potentially, like how Rob Jr. would view it. Krokorok potentially is a threat. You have Rotom there. Rotom's always a threat. And maybe he's thinking, okay, this is HP fighting Psychic Kadabra. It could also do some work. But that's conditional on Ryza getting up rocks. So I'm sure what Rob Jr. was thinking, like start, keep offensive pressure on them a while. Don't let rocks go up too easily. And on the flip side with Ryza, he's thinking, I need rocks up to win this game. Otherwise, I'm not going to win. So that's why I think we saw the lead that we did. That's why we saw Ryza go out into the Mawile, and we saw Rob Jr. lead with the Defiant Pawniard. I spoke to Ryza after the game, and I just said that your matchup wasn't great, but you didn't help yourself with how you played the game.
Yeah.
I think if he
that's like a thing, like with like how he played them a while, like I really didn't get that, because like with an Articuno on your opponent's team, you always want the rocks up, and like getting one player off on Pawniard is one thing, but he like let the Pawniard Iron Head twice to the point where Mawile was basically fodder.
Yeah, exactly. No, I was thinking, why did you leave Mawile, especially when your team's 6-0'd by like Zebstrika? You have to think about, or you have to take that into consideration. So I suggested after, like, why didn't you just leave Krokorok? Because you threaten pretty much everything. And if he leads off with, you can go into Mawile or Rotom, depending on what you want.
Yeah.
And if you kept Mawile around, you threaten the Vibrava. Vibrava doesn't defog a Mawile freely because you have Payra. So, I mean, and then also, you can definitely say that Ryza misplayed, because the Kadabra was Eviolite Calm Mind. So it was beating the Articuno when it got to Calm Mind, but he decided to not click Signal Beam on the Articuno switch. I felt like that was also a misplay. I feel like Pawniard was always going to be a switch in there, and because and it's also especially because you need to get back into the game. Why do you need to be playing safely? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah, I agree.
So,
and I mean, like he definitely could have made that play, because like even if the Articuno stayed in for whatever reason, like
you can just recover.
Like he took like 25% from like freeze dry, so
exactly. Like Articuno is no longer the threat. It's always going to be the switch in next. I think maybe he was caught up in like two minds. Like if he goes Golem, maybe I have to do something. But I'm thinking, okay, if he goes Golem, you can just go Luminion, or you can go like Krokorok, because it has Intimidate. I mean, yeah. Overall, I think Rob Jr. had the marginally better team, and I feel like
Marginally, I
Ryza was
think, is a
playing-
little understating.
yeah, okay, marginally, okay.
Although
say it's like 80-20.
the weird thing also about Rob Jr.'s team, he doesn't have a fighting resist. So his resist to
Yeah, one point it kinda
Monferno
runs through it.
and Stoutland like is always gonna be, oh shit, I have to go Vibrava to take this hit. Like Stoutland literally just clicks superpower and keeps chipping Vibrava, and
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, okay, you know what?
yeah,
Maybe
Stoutland
marginally
nothing
is
but
fair.
this.
I'm really not sure about teams, but like Horace is always just kind of weird on teams, and I can at least kind of understand
Yeah,
his.
it
But
was kind of weird.
yeah, the
was
fact that
like,
Ryza never
I
got
would say,
rocks.
Rob Jr. basically posted like the team was going to be using like minutes before the game started, and then wanted to run it by like me and Lordesty, and we were like, okay, because like it was. Wait, let me actually go into the logs real quick and see what it was like, because there was like a really big flaw in it. What was it again? There was like some really weird shit going on there. Oh yeah. Basically, the team he initially had. Let me see. He had like a choice band muck over what ended up being. Wait, let me replay real quick. Or what ended up being the Poniard, and then he had a Matang for his rocker instead of a Golem. And basically, that team had to be played perfectly if you wanted to play around Bronzor, because you needed to like constantly get the fire punch from muck onto the Bronzor.
Yeah,
And yeah, so like it had to be like adapted like last minute. So this is what ended up rolling out. And yeah, like it definitely wasn't great against Stoutland, but we didn't see that in the game, so we were lucky in that end. If he had brought us Stoutland, Ryza, I mean, he could have like had a shot, because the fighting resist was
Yeah, I feel like over the game, with the game overall, I feel like Rob Jr. played the game just fundamentally better than Ryza did. Like I made it clear to Ryza after the match, like you did no favors. Like okay, you can say that you had a matchup disadvantage, but you did yourself no favors in the game to try and get yourself a position in the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah, I feel like that's where the game was won and lost.
Rob Jr. made the plays that he had to make. He didn't like completely stun anyone, but like he did what he had to do, and Ryza just kind of lost it, just made himself lose, basically.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. I
So
mean,
that was what? That was for 2-2?
that was for 2-2, and then the next game was Amber Lamps versus Finchinator, which I don't think there's going to be a ton to say on.
Yeah, I was gonna say like it's
Well,
basically
let me-
just Finch brought the sample stall team for Black and White, and Amber brought a Natu and a Maractus. So Finch basically knew from turn one he was not gonna get Hazards up, and Amber was gonna get his Hazards up, and that's a big deal.
Yeah, I mean there
Although
are a
actually
few
did end up,
mitigating
like,
things I
fairly
can say about
close.
this. And Robert, I would just check the Antijet. I would check the chat real quick. But basically, Finch also brought this team last PUPL when he was on my team, with basically the thought that like it's black white stall, even if it's a sample, like stall's gonna function how stall does, and there's not many better stalls. And I kind of agree. Like this stall definitely loses to spikes plus not to, and really doesn't do well against spikes in general. But those aren't super common, and the stall's not terrible at all. So like this isn't the first time he's pulled this, just thinking it'll get a good matchup. But ultimately, what ended up happening is like it didn't get a great matchup, and Finch was left with no way to outplay a player who's like, I don't think Amber's bad by any means, but Amber is certainly not like you couldn't outright say he's better than Finchinator. So like without a recourse like that,
Yeah,
it
I mean-
kind of just was like, oops, I got matchupped because I was looking for matchup, and it is what it
Yeah,
is.
I mean, so here's my perspective, because I actually built Amper's team for him specifically for this week. I did recycle a few like ideas that I've had in previous weeks that tennis and triangles may not have used, but the ideas that were behind the team was that it was the physically defensive Graveler, so your standard Graveler set for Fracture and stuff. Maractus was modest, so I could beat Natu's 1v1. The Natu was there, obviously, as like a hazards deterrent. You have your Spadef Behemoth for your Combuskin check, and then you have your own Combuskin, because Combuskin is broken with spikes. And I then have a Persian here, and that was sort of for a mixture between, Riolu and kind of offense as well, because it's physical Persian with Fake Out and Feint, so the double stab priority with Technician there.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of built the team under the idea that Finch he kept bringing bulky stuff week in and week out. So I thought, okay, if he's going to keep bringing this balanced team, and obviously in Black-White there is no hazards control, basically. You have like Staryu, and you have Tentacle, and you have Natu. Like, that's it. So if we bring hazards and we bring a Combuskin, that's just like free money. And then you have the Behemoth on top of that, which is nasty plot. That will break through any of Finch's steals that he was quite fond of bringing. And the team, I feel like what happened is that this is like me CTing Finch and Finch not bothering, really, like he didn't bother to bring something that he,
Well, okay.
Finch, I think, going into this game, because he was actually like already like in week 5, considering bringing Stall, he was just like, people are probably not gonna really bother preparing specifically for Stall, so I might be able to just pull a free win. Didn't obviously happen, but although like in the end, like it still was pretty close, because it basically came down to like Amber like clicking Signal Beam on a turn that Duosion did not switch out, because if it switched out, then I thought it won.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it in the end, like Amber definitely had like a very clear matchup advantage, and like Finch couldn't do a whole lot other than just hope that the Duosion could sort of solo its way through the team, because yeah, it was like I definitely feel if Finch really wanted to go like for the win, he could have just like.
Well, I do have other things to say on that. And first of all, definitely check out the Discord chat. I dropped some interesting stuff. But Finch was definitely not happy after the last week's whole Black-White thing. And I think that it was half. I think this will do well. And I definitely think there's a potential for that just being a pick of, I'm kind of done with Black-White and PUPL. That kind of sucked, and I have this team. I think it might do well. I'm just gonna fucking bring it instead of doing anything else. That just kind of seems to me where that pick came from. But yeah, overall, just did not work out. So this is where the Pikas take the lead, and then move into Kingler versus Lord ST, which was another game that definitely could have gone.
Take the lead, didn't it? The Marowaks took the lead here.
No.
Yeah.
The Marowaks took the lead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Amber's on the Marowaks. Yeah, you're right. Amber's on the Marowak. So Marowaks took the lead here, going into Kingler versus Lord ST, where Lord ST on the Pikas really needed to pull out this win. And this is probably my favorite game of the set, just because overall it didn't end up being like maybe the finals I was hoping for. But I think it was just a much better played, a much more interesting, much better teams than like any of the other games, to be honest. Kingler ended up bringing this Servine team, which I definitely figured at this point is Hajad helping these guys build, which he just confirmed. And Lord ST ended up bringing another team that was some Type Null stuff, which Type Null definitely, like, I thought it was very interesting because you don't normally see Null on this kind of team at all. Plus it had a Rotom Frost, and just generally a very cool team that ended up pulling out a close win. It's kind of even harder to analyze a game like this because there's nothing you can point to. Like, here's the matchup, here's the critical turn, here's the player choking, whatever. He definitely pulled out a very lucky sleep talk at one point versus the Zervine, but otherwise, and also right, he got the Aquajet roll on Kabutops, living on
Yeah,
1%
the
to get
liquidation
rapid
was
spin
a min
off.
roll on the Kabutops the first time, so you had to high roll the Aquajet.
Yeah, he got like the rolls there and stuff, but overall, still like I don't know. You guys probably have better thoughts on this from the building stage because this is definitely the game that like you have to watch to get a better sense of rather than this dude had a shit matchup. So did either of you end up building either of these or have like more insight on them?
Um,
Um,
so
I
go on, Alfred.
personally I didn't really know Lord ST's game like team going into the match, so I'll like leave myself neutral on that end. But HChat probably built Universe team, so
Yeah, I mean, with uh, with my team for Kingler, I was more so concerned about being just generally strong versus the tier's big threats. So I thought if LST is going to bring anything, he's going to be bringing the tier's strongest threats. He's not going to be bringing memes. He's not going to be like messing about. So that's where the main sort of idea for the team came from. So the first one you see there is going to be Assault Vest Caracosta, mainly because I like random Assault Vests. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because I
Yeah.
was actually wondering, because LSD already like mentioned how like the Caracosta was built bulkier than expected, because at one point like Caracosta was like at 40%, and it like tanked a +2 Slicer's huge burn, and he was like, that's not supposed to happen. And we were basically wondering like why he never set it up, but now we know basically.
Yeah, it's Assault Vest. It's Liquidation, Stone Edge, not Aquajet, with like max HP, a lot of Spadef investment, and an Adamant Nature. So that's just for like your Pyro, your solid Pyro switching. You're generally just like a special tank. So like stuff like Aurorus, you could switch it in quite safely and not have to worry too much about repercussions. It was Healing Wish Mesprit, standard Stealth Rocks Healing Wish stuff. Bulky Ice Beam, Frostlass, your standard Silk Scarf, Kangaskhan, your Violite Girder, and your Violite Servine, which was max HP, max speed with Defog. The idea with the team was check off the big things. So Pyro, we have obviously the Caracosta, we have Servine for the Kingler, for Aggron we have the Girder, for the normal types we have all the Girder as well. For Aurorus we have Caracosta and the Frostlass that can potentially switch in. Girder we have the Mesprit there. The idea was to check off the main things and then like have our own sort of contingency plan for winning. So that's why you see the Normalium Kanga, not the Normalium Kanga, the Silk Scarf Kanga to break through, your bulkier teams. The Girder is there for a win con. So it's generally there because I could have put Blossom or like a Lilligant, or like probably more likely Blossom.
Right, we don't. Maybe we shouldn't go through every single mon super in detail. I think we get the point of wanting to check the big threats, and it's not people are gonna. If you want to get the most out of it, you should definitely have seen or check out this replay. But we can't go over the entire team building process, please. At this point, it's yeah.
All I can say really on the game, like specifically, is that like late into the game, like LST was at a point where like I thought he could basically secure the win, and then I thought he like choked it, but Healing Wish Mesprit basically won him the game after all, because I was thinking like there was some shit going on, like
he let.
But there was definitely like a point where he could have secured the win without like having to Healing Wish, I feel. But in any case, like he managed to pull through with the Scyther, which in general had a really solid matchup, to be honest.
Yeah, Scyther actually, this is really the first time that I've seen a Scyther not just have like, to deal with your Agrons and your Togedemaru's and all that. And Kingler's check was the Assault Vest Caracosta, and the Frostlass not necessarily super meant for that. So definitely good showing for Scyther, good showing for Rotom Frost. even solid for Type Null. Like everything on Lord ST's team kind of did work because Jed, you were talking about prepping for the big threats that Lord ST brought something totally out of left field. But unlike the other teams that we've talked about, where I feel like the ones out of left field have not been good, I feel like this one was overall much more solid, if a bit reliant on Type Null being the pyro check.
Yeah.
Other than
Well, I
that,
mean, you got kaboot ops if need be.
So yeah, I would definitely recommend
I mean,
checking that
overall,
out as
just
the
to-
most interesting game, in my opinion. Do we want to just move on then? I thought you had more.
Just a brief like comment on that game. I mean, Kingler, like the game wasn't particularly well played on either side, but I felt like Kingler overall just got like the shittier end of all the RNG, with the low rolls and stuff. I feel like in a cleaner game that he probably would have come out with that one. I felt like that was a swing game. That was a really big game.
Yeah, I should say best game definitely came down to being longer, not like choked or anything, but I don't know. I can't even think of one big part in any of these games where someone just made a major play that was like, hey, they just made a big old play or anything like that, which is, you know what, sometimes PU gets that. It's unfortunate that this ended up being our finals, but we've had we've had things, and definitely I think what was emblematic of that was the Lax versus Arafine game. I'm probably going to be much more harsh on this game than anyone else would, but I think Lax's team was average and fine, but played kind of weird overall, and Arafine's team was just stupid, and I have no idea what he was doing all game. Like, it definitely wasn't helped by the fact that he brought some kind of Drampa Lycanroc Midnight team, but what even happened? Like, Drampa had no switch-ins and came in like once and roosted, and it never clicked an attack at all. It just kind of got hidden powered and nature powered, because we're running nature power Lilligant, and I have no idea why. The Lycanroc ended up not doing anything either. Like, all he had going for him was spikes plus circle throw Polyrath, but it was very weak to the sub-combine Mesprit Lax brought. Like, the psychic resist was Togedemaru. Overall, like, there was just, it was such a weird team that I feel like, similar to Pepe, he kind of just lost the game at matchup just because of the team he brought. But also just the plays really got to me, because Drampa still had no switch-ins. It could have at least done something, but that guy did not come in. Arafine's Frostlass dying super early. Weirdly enough, neither team bring any hazard control, just opting to like have their own spikes plus rocks, but both teams definitely could have used hazard control. Like, both teams could have used hazard control a decent amount, so I just don't know, man. I don't know what was up with this.
Alphonse, do you have like anything to say about your team?
Oh yeah. With regard to the Lilligant being nature power, well, it was a Specs Lilligant, so it's literally like, I mean, Lilligant's move pool is just grass type moves and then a hidden power and then filler. So LST built this team. I think he just went with nature power as like a neutral move that can hit like decently hard for just anything it wants to switch into it, like just like as a middle ground option. Other than that, I don't remember much from the team. But yeah, it did not have any hazard control. That's true. I guess he just banked on like getting his hazards up faster than his opponents in case he brought that team.
Yeah, and it's a lot less egregious in Lax's case, because he at least has stuff like Sub-Combine, Mesprit, and Lilligant, which put on a decent amount of pressure, whereas for Arafine, like, if you're running a Drampa as like that slow kind of wall breaker, and the Lycanroc, like, those really need removal, because they're definitely going to be forced out a lot more.
Okay, yeah, so I'll go through Arafine's team, because actually me and Yogi built this team a week, like the day before the game actually happened. Basically, what we were going for was Lycanroc. We figured that nobody had switch-ins to it. I mean, you look at the Lycanroc in this game; it's Adamant with Zen Headbutt and Lycanium Z. So if we got a rock polisher, the Lycanium Z could have like literally OHKO'd the Togedemaru, or if we got the Sword Stance off, we could have like OHKO'd the Regirock, or like OHKO'd the Poliwrath with the respective coverage. But like also on the hazards control front, the Drampa wasn't actually a wall breaker. It was actually supposed to be our Svidef wall. The 100% Tangela switch in, the the grass immunity. That's where our default came from.
Yeah. That's what I assumed, honestly. Because I've actually used Spadef Drampa on one of my fucking PPL teams. I think it was. I definitely used it before. It's a pretty decent set, honestly.
Yeah, and that's what the main premise of the team comes from. Basically, we figured that Lycanroc Midnight is like a really reliable, if you want to put it in like wall breaker, similar to how Kingler functions as like a really powerful agility sweeper, essentially, but also having Sword Stance to take on like Regirock, Togedemaru, Poliwrath switch-ins. So I was thinking, okay, Lycanroc can do work in this matchup if we can get a free turn. If not, we can just use like AMZ, nuke something, and we're potentially in business. The Poliwrath, I thought, that has a pretty decent matchup. It gives up spikes, but oh well, we get spikes if they want to get up spikes. Frostlass was standard bulky spikes, standard SRs, Mesprit, Scuff, Togue, and the Spadef Drampa, obviously. I'm more like phased by how Fiend played. He played like he was uncomfortable with the team, and obviously it showed in the game. Like Glax just sort of kept his offensive pressure much easier than Fiend did, and Fiend just kind of played a few turns and then just lost the game.
Yeah, I should say this might be another Pepe situation where like maybe the random whack-ass team, I wouldn't be so down on it if it also didn't do so badly, partially because the plays are just really inexplicable, and I don't know what was going on there. It was especially silly because like the game wasn't linked at all anywhere. Those two guys just couldn't be bothered to share a big game of the finals of PUPL. So we were kind of just like, oh, hey, look at gameplay. Let's go check it out. Wow, what the fuck was that? That's really all I got. And it absolutely rightfully put the Pikas up 4-3 going into the last game, which would decide whether they won or got the tiebreaker. And there's almost even less to say about Mysterious M versus Rodri. I get the appeal. I get why Mysterious M brought Dundee's stall. You need the win, and it's not a bad idea. But I do think Rodri has not been bad versus Dundee's stall. Like in general, I think he's been fine versus it. I think it would definitely be on his mind to be prepared for it, as he was. And even though there was an early like hacks plus misclick, a crit and a misclick, I think Mysterious M just shot himself in the foot, just like Finchinator, where he brought Stall to a matchup where Stall was not the thing to bring, and did not have the tools to outplay because it's Stall. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
I mean, there's really not that much to say about this game. I mean, Rodri brought a team with a decent stall matchup. I wouldn't say it's a great stall matchup, but I'd say it's decent.
Yeah.
I mean, just when you bring a sub Marowak and you know how to play it right, then you can always like pull something against Stall, basically.
I was more worried that it was going to be Sword Stance, because if it was Sword Stance, you could see Marowak easily breaking through the Avalug. But as soon as it was like sub, I was thinking, okay, potentially Avalug can be your switch in for Marowak. You have Avalug obviously for the Leafeon. Pelipper is not really a threat. Bronzel's not really a threat. Fairy isn't a threat. And then for Rotom, you have Ordino there, just literally Ordino and Muck. So it's like, so I think Mysterious M had, it wasn't over at matchup for sure.
Yeah.
I think it required some some elbow grease from from Rodri, if that's how you want to put it. Like it required him to like play aggressive, play really on Mysterious M's shoulder, and he just sort of won the game. Like he got the crit, but I think like even long term, I think sub Roten, like not Roten, the Trick Scarf Roten would have done something.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I mean, not to like brag about my team too much, but I mean like Rodri basically barred that one unfortunate game with where he brought a fucking Reggie Gigas in like week 4. Rodri basically just wins every time. Because, like, as long as his matchup is not unwinnable. Because, I mean, like, in the first 2 weeks, like, Rodri had a tough matchup both times, and he still fucking pulled it off because he's Rodri and he knows how to play this. So, yeah, like, when I saw, like, that he brought a Marowak against Mysterious Amp, I wasn't too worried. Because I knew, like, he would be able to, like, do something at least. As long as he had something for stall, like, he was fine there, and he did, so...
Yeah. He's held it down very consistently, and when the last game came down to Rodri, it was just like, yeah, Pikas are gonna almost certainly win this. And really though, I don't mean to insult your team because I don't think you did badly by any means. I think you came out as just a very solid, middle of the road to innovative and interesting team, but there was nothing really crazy that happened at all this week or last week, and I think this really just came down to other teams kind of just get like really handing wins and an absolutely crazy chain of events that ended up putting the Marowaks, not the Marowaks, the Pikas in finals and then carrying this win. I think it kind of just showed that like being consistent, even if maybe there was nothing super exceptional or crazy well played or absolutely like mind-boggling what the hell is going on here, definitely put out a stronger showing than like being good but not being reliable here, because that's honestly like a decent metaphor for PU in general. We have tour players who reach dizzying heights, but PU has never been hugely reliable anyway, and this is what happens when suddenly you swing from, winning like 7-0 last week to whatever Pepe Duce was doing this series.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I think with this week in particular, I feel like it kind of played in the Marowak's heads where the team, if I was in the Marowak's position, the team that I would least want to play out of all of the teams that were fighting for playoffs, I'd probably say Robert's team, the Boku no Pikas were probably the strongest. Like on a player-for-player basis, that's just the team that you don't want to play, because you know that if they get all their shit sorted on their day, they're just gonna win games because they're all that good. So, I mean, that's just what ended up happening. You just had on a player-for-player level, you just had good players playing with good teams at a good a good level, and I feel like that's what clutched it up more than anything for Robert's team.
Yeah, we didn't really have to do anything exceptionally weird this week, but definitely we just won the games that we had to, and brought like teams that were like solid, whereas the Marowaks definitely had like a few games where like they just brought like really weird teams.
Yeah, I mean that was. I would almost put the Pepe and the Fiend games in the same exact boat as like the whole Speed Pass thing of here's a free game, have fun with it. I don't know. Like four of the 5 wins was the Pepe the Fiend, and then Finch and Mysterious M brought stall and did not have a matchup. LST versus Kingler was the only like more elaborate, I guess, win. I don't know. I love PU. I just think we've had better tours than this. It doesn't hurt to see the value of consistency and building a strong team that just keeps putting out. So I don't think this is terrible by any means. I think PUPL was still a great tour, and the Peak is absolutely deserved to win finals and put out a strong showing 100%.
Oh, thank God.
But yeah, things just kind of went out with a whimper. That's
Well, yeah, fair enough. Um, I mean, for me personally, of course, it's nice because.
oh yeah, if you're on the winning team, it's like hell yeah.
Yeah. Especially considering like last year we got last. It's nice that we're on the opposite end of the spectrum right now. But I mean, in general, like starting off, like when I got my draft, I was feeling very confident because I knew I got the players that I wanted to get. I got Rodri, I got like LST to just basically be able to provide support wherever necessary. And then generally, I just got solid players, and yeah, we did what we had to do. We did not always get super lucky. Like I feel like if luck had been more neutral, we might have been able to like get into finals without needing like this very specific set of circumstances of us winning against the Drampas in a blowout and then having the missies and the dance tie just to get to the finals, you know. But yeah, like overall, like my draft was good, and yeah, like going into it, I was really hoping to reach finals, which you both predicted us to get. So,
That's the thing. Like I was thinking throughout the year, Horn's team and your team, the Pika's team, were like the strongest, like on paper, on a player basis. Those two teams had the strongest like tour player, PU player here, this and that. I feel like those were the strongest two, not including my own, obviously. Like I feel like
no, I think they're definitely stronger on paper than yours.
Yeah, so like I felt confident, but I felt more so sorry for the Marowaks going into that finals, because I was thinking, like, of all teams, you know, you don't want to be playing the team that has, you know, Rodri and Oras, you know? You don't want to be playing, you know, an SM with, like, Robert Alphonse, LST, you know, who else? I forgot your Oras players. Oh, SM players, damn. Lax as well. Yeah, Lax, Snagger. Like, you don't want to be playing those players. I felt like they would have been much more happy playing, like, the Missies or something. Missies or the Drampas or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They'd have been much happier with that sort of matchup.
Yeah, because I mean, like in like most other drafts instances, like I think both of you got like really solid drafts, and I was like pretty scared of both of your teams, not gonna lie. But like there were still like weaknesses, like on Ashad's team on the SM slots, you basically got Ashad and Ted, and then question marks. Like after that, it's basically just like a rotating slot that could either turn out well or just fuck up.
And I'll say on my part, we know it's the Oras slots. We went 0-4 in Oras the first 2 weeks. That's not a question. I'll own up to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I'll consider those the big final statements on PUPL, because we have hit over an hour. I think it's about time to. Hey, I was telling you guys, these monologues went on very long for the early games. So thank you. Nah, it's not a big deal. It's not for me. So Robert, thank you for joining us. Congratulations for winning PUPL, and good luck in Snake Draft as well.
Hey, what?
Whoa!
You
This
what?
guy.
Whoa! That was some shade. What? Jad, are you?
Oh, we're gonna congratulate him.
We were so close to the end, H-Dad, and now you're just gonna fuck it up for all of us.
Yeah, Jed, are you drafted in Snake Draft? No, so he is more deserving. That's how official tournaments work.
Okay, fair enough. You
All
got
right.
drafted for Snake.
Guys, next week we'll actually hit on
That's true.
some of the suspect
I
talk.
got drafted in Snake, so
I'll just let all this drama play out in the background, and yeah, be back talking about Kingler next week. So farewell.
Okay, that's gonna be fun.